Got it.
All right.
Hi there. This is Phil Simberg again with what I think is an interesting problem. There's a 2-1 to play for black. We're running this as an unlimited or money game, which is pretty much the same way you would play it 11 away, 11 away, or 7 away, 7 away in a match. And black is on the bar and has a 2-1 to play. So the question is, do you come in and hit? Do you come in and not hit? If you do come in and hit, where do you hit? And I must tell you, I wasn't quite sure on this myself, and I wasn't even more sure about how to do a really good analysis of this for a student. And a student did send me this question, and I wanted to be sure and give him a very good and full answer. And when I got it from my teacher and mentor, Perry Gartner, I found that what he had was so interesting that I thought I would share it with all of the USBGF members. So here is Perry Gartner, but before he starts, you can pause this and think for a couple of minutes about how you would play the 2-1, and then you can start the recording again, and you can hear how Perry approaches this problem. And I think it'll help you approach many other problems as well. Okay, I assume you've paused the recording. You know what you're going to play. Perry, what's the right play, and what would you do?
Hi, everyone. Well, first I'd look at the candidate plays, as you pointed out, Phil, and I'd break them down into 2 categories, the non-hitting ones and the hitting ones. And I'd like to eliminate the plays that I think are outside, further apart, further away, so I won't give them too much consideration. And I think that applies to the non-hitting plays. The non-hitting plays would be essentially coming in on the 24s and slotting. I'm not going to look at something crazy like coming down or play.
First of all, let me just add here, I have to agree. I learned a rule of thumb a long time for early game play, and I asked myself, can I hit? Can I make a point? Can I safety checkers in that order? And hitting usually comes first here. You wouldn't want to give them this full roll. So I never really seriously considered not hitting here.
Very good. So now regarding the hitting play, looking at the 2 hitting candidates, well, if I hit on the 7 point, seemingly it might be safer. But once I counted the shots, I saw was 13 returns on the 7 point. If I hit on the 5 point, there are 15 returns on the 5 point. So then I asked myself, well, is the difference worth it? Well, I happen to know this position, but I'm going back a ways when I first looked at this a number of years ago. And the difference of 2, what does it matter? Well, the most important point for your opponent right now would be to make an anchor here. So by hitting on the 7, you're putting him in a position to anchor up. By anchoring up, he's anchoring up in front of these checkers, so they're out of play essentially in terms of priming, and you've elevated his game to a higher level.
By the way, you should know, if you hit that checker, how often white will anchor, and he has to roll a 5, which is only 11 rolls, but he also anchors with a 1, 4, and a 3, 2. So you should instantly know there are 15 numbers out of 36 where he's going to make the 5 point.
That's right, and that is a lot of numbers that make that point. So one thing you accomplish is you prevent him from making the point by hitting him on the inside. Actually, you accomplish several things. You also accomplish unstacking this 6 point, which is something early on you all know you want to do. So you're unstacking a very important point. And where are you unstacking it? You're unstacking it on your 5 point. That's the third thing. You're unstacking it on your 5 so that when he doesn't roll those 15 numbers, you you become a favorite to make it. So you've reduced the other thing that happens. Of course, you don't want him to make any anchor, but you can't prevent that. What you've done is you reduce the possibilities of him making an anchor to 6, the 5, 2, 4, 3, and 6, 1. So 6 instead of 15 is one accomplishment. Unstacking is a second. A third is slotting your best point. And the fourth is, we discussed before, of course, is taking a half a roll away from it.
Well, can I add a couple more, Perry? I know because when I first asked you about this, you pointed out a couple of other things. There's some real negatives of hitting off the 7 point and stripping your 8 point as far as your ability to hit back if he hits you there or cover.
Well, that's a very good point. When you do hit on the 5 point here, you have a spare on the 8 to cover with, right? And that's really, really important. So you don't want to strip this point unless you have to strip it.
Would you hit the eval? Would you hit the eval for us, Perry?
Pardon me?
Would you show us the evaluation?
Yes.
So it's a huge, huge difference. It's more than an 8% is a blunder. So this is more than a blunder to hit off the 7. And most people, lots of people would hit off the 7 for the main reason they think it's safer. But as you pointed out, it's only 2 out of 36 safer, which is like about 5%. Not a whole lot safer anyway. And then how does it play afterwards, even if you make that play? Let's show what it looks like after you make the second best play.
Okay, after this.
And this is what I was alluding to. Let's say you don't get hit and he anchors. You really only have 6s to cover the 7 point, or you're leaving a blot there, because if you cover with the ace, you're trading 1 point for another, which isn't much value, and you're having to leave a blot because you stripped your 8 point.
Right, that's very true. Going back though, Phil, let's go back to the initial, and what I want to demonstrate is that even if you have another checker down here, it's still right. It's still right to hit off the 5 point.
Yeah, the error isn't quite as big because you have that spare, but it's still very significantly better.
And now let's take a look at this, Phil. Even in this position, let's put this back here. I'm going to even make this worse for black. What do you think here? What we'll let your viewers think for a moment.
Okay.
What do they think? It's
well,
more
dangerous. They can pause the video and take more time, but if they think like I think, when you use the word even, they gave it away. So even here, I'm hitting off the 5 point.
Okay. All right. You're right. I gave it away there.
You gave it away when you said even.
I gave it away.
I think I would get it right after your comments and after seeing this. This becomes much more logical to me that you really want to hit off the 5 point. As a matter of fact, I'm less afraid of getting into a hitting exchange because I have more points now. In fact, I'm a little bit less afraid of getting into a back and forth hitting exchange.
Well, I'm gonna. Here's one I'm not gonna give away. I'm gonna ask. How about this one, viewers and you?
Well, I'll speak for the viewers, and I'll still hit off the 5 point.
All right, let's look.
Well, we got to have. You're dropping it all.
Right, we've got to
pass. So let's put the cube on loose. Yeah.
Right, that's what we have to do. Well,
and now I'm very wrong. No hitting is right.
Right, but let's take one guy back here and see if that makes sense.
He can't afford to hit there because he's got to save gammons now.
So now it's right to hit again. So this is interesting. That the immediate threat here isn't as large when he only has one builder. It's much larger when he has two.
Yeah, and if you got the cube, now you got to start thinking about not getting gammon much more. Although you don't have Jacoby checked, even with the cube in the middle, you have to worry about gammon. But it was going to be double drop. That's confusing it with the cube. But the concept is very, very clear. By the way, I pretty much was confident about the play, but I wasn't very confident about the explanation until you went through the variables. But then you also said something very interesting that you remembered this from years ago. You've been playing more than 2 or 3 years, haven't you?
I would hope so.
I've been playing for 55 years. Barry's a little bit older and a lot better than me. So the interesting thing is once you remember a reference position, you quickly can go to the play. And keep in mind that those of us who are older have been forced because of XG to forget some of the references that we used to have. When I learned to play this game and started taking it seriously, for example, one of my references was to bring 2 down with an opening 5-3 because that's what everybody taught me. And now we know that's a horrible play. So you always have to keep checking your reference positions as you go. Anything else to add here, Perry?
Yeah, I would add this, that what we've seen here is so significant. It's so significant that this difference in equity that it is more meaningful than this number is, because this comes up a lot of the time. Oftentimes we look at positions and they just come up 1 out of 500 or 1,000 times. This concept and early play hitting here just comes up so often that it just is an enormous amount of equity you gain.
Put the cube back in the center.
Right.
Put the cube back in the center here, Perry.
Right. Okay.
It'll be even greater.
Yeah, it's greater. Right. It is greater.
So this illustrates one more point that I've read just recently. I read it long ago, but I've been reading it again recently as I go through my old backgammon books. I'm pretty sure it was Woolsey that I recently read it from. In the early game, it's just so important to unstack, and even later in the game, if you have stacked points, and you always start out the game with too many checkers on your 6 and 13 points, and lots of times where you have a chance to unstack, it's not always right, but you should start leading that way because you have a much more robust game, and if you can get those checkers into play.
Well, the other thing is, Phil, that it's often right to make a move that prevents your opponent from making an inner point, particularly a high anchor inner point.
Uh-huh.
That's part of this lesson.
Uh-huh.
Here's an opportunity for you to prevent your opponent. There's no way by hitting there that he can make that point. He doesn't have another checker there around.
Gotcha.
So that's something to remember as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Perry, I appreciate your time and efforts on this and your volunteering of your time and expertise to the USBGF. And thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more videos from Perry and other experts that I bring along to help me with these positions in the future. Goodbye, everybody.
So long, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, I'll stop the recording.
All right.